Africa.
This should be RomneyAudio.Africa.
Romy Titus and Kevin McCallum. Not the sports news. The have spoken. Streaming data-free on the MTN network in South Africa. This is where Africa comes to play. That is a masterclass. On your phone, online, and on demand at OmniAudio.Africa.
It's mayhem.
Not the sports news.
An official good morning.
An official good morning.
Because we've said morning so many times now. Delayed.
4, 3, 2, 1. Is it? Are we the Walking Dead this morning? Because I think we both. You had no sleep. I had 3 hours sleep because I was still celebrating Liverpool's great win over Everton.
I had a migraine injection and then added a Neurobian injection to that. So I'm not too sure if the mixture of whatever was in this.
Namibian.
No talk about medicines.
Namibian injection. Why'd you have a Namibian injection?
I had that too, but it's okay.
What robe were you wearing?
Neurobian injection. Anyway, let's get to our headlines rather.
And there's a couple of jokes happening here. Royal AM. Is it coming to
No, but
to
I've
an
asked
end?
for this for so long, Kev. I just said, please just let us know as you go.
Yeah.
Even if you don't really know, educate us so that we know as well what's happening with Royal AM, because we also want to know, why are we left in the dark?
Yeah.
As everything happens, unfolds and, crash, boom, bang. So for once, I think we hear from the PSL headquarters.
I mean, it's been like a episode of Twilight Zone. You hear that music, and nobody knows what's going on. But now it looks like they're just going to basically dissolve the club.
So I think the big wigs obviously met yesterday, and that is Dr. Urban Khoza as well as the acting CEO there. We call her Madam CEO, Mato, Madlala. So they've also just gotten together in the same room. They're also realizing that, look, things are just in disarray here, but they are hoping that the curator still comes to the party and everything is sort of like on ice until the end of April, because the Exco has been discussing the expulsion. And if you think about it, Royal AM have only played, 11 games?
Exactly, yeah. There are teams that have played close on 20 at the moment.
Member clubs will now convene, have an urgent meeting to vote on. Have you ever been able to say the nickname of Royal AM?
No, I just say Titi.
No, say it.
Titi. Tuweli Tuwala. It sounds like Vili Vali.
Twihli Twahla. But even that's not correct. I could never. It takes like so much concentration.
Is that the nickname they've got now?
Twihli
It's not what they were
Twahla.
called when they still Bloom Celtic, was it?
No.
Okay, just checking. I mean, everyone's got a nickname in football.
Siwelele was Bloom Celtic.
Okay.
Twihli Twahla. Please say it. Please humor me.
Oh, look at that. The microphone's not working.
Please
so
humor me.
awful. How awful.
So anyway, that's what's happening with Royal AM, in the hope that we still maybe save the club end of April.
Yeah, it looks like when News 24 reporting they're facing expulsion. That's serious. Obviously, it's going to have to be a 15-team tournament.
And I think Cash and Sport actually hit the nail on the head, because he said by last week Friday something needed to happen, and if it didn't happen, it was basically death's door.
Well, logistically, you can't do it. You can't play that number of matches in the time frame. It's just daft. Some good news though, we got this guy who saved an Esperance fund, the Sundance fan.
That guy has just gone viral everywhere. He should do a live so that we can just understand as to the good Samaritan that came out to help the fan from the opposing side, who apparently started all the nonsense and the argy-bargy that we saw at Loftus.
Yeah. You saw him, basically the guy was trying to climb down one of the old, sort of the side of the top stand, and he was slipping, he was falling, and this guy sprinted 400 meters.
I've only seen Sponiso Masango save the guy.
Yeah.
So he's holding his arm. Then eventually you see in all the clips, over he goes, guy is saved. Boniso is a hero, although he's saying he's not a hero.
Yeah.
But I want to know, how did the guy get there hanging in the first place?
Well, it looked like, so they were in the stand, just the upper level stand above that, and then when they attacked allegedly attacked the Sundance fans, then they came back at them and then pushed this little fence that was separating them over, and they panicked. And a lot of guys tried to jump across. He tried to jump across.
So he tried to jump over that embankment. It's quite a way down.
It's about 10, 15 meters.
How many stories is that?
It's about
two
or
three.
Yeah, he wouldn't look. I don't think he died, but he would have.
He might have broken a leg or something, But
yeah, it was ugly. I see that.
Like I said, April month is really not the month to be diving off of things, or falling on things. If you think of April 11th and the Ellis Park disaster, right? I'm just very happy that maybe there's a blue eye, a bloody nose, there's no death. And this man who could have seriously been injured has been saved. And thank you, Sponiso.
And we do have the images of that, which will be up in the pre-recorded
everybody's
package of
just
this,
been talking about it, everyone.
So he said he told Times Live that both of us were crying afterwards, both of him and the guy he saved, which is something else.
I guess it's an emotional thing.
Yeah.
I mean, why do you also want to be there, witnessing everything? I don't want to be there. I've seen enough, actually. So why would you want to see a man fall to his almost death?
Yeah.
Would you have done that? Would you have saved him?
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
okay.
no,
Just
no
checking.
problem. Mind you, I'm a journalist, so I was able to watch them fall and say, could have saved him. Not my fault.
He would have hung
Objective,
back a little bit,
said,
a little bit
"Okay,
longer.
come on, go on. No,
Who was it that took the pics of Stachy dying? Was it Benny Gould?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
And
I know
there were
Benny Gould,
always
yeah.
questions around why did he not save versus taking those photos.
Well, Kevin Carter, who won the Pulitzer Prize for that picture of the young African child trying to get into basically not a home but a camp, and she had bad malnutrition. Beside this little kid was a vulture waiting to basically eat her.
Yes, I know that.
Yeah.
Who was that?
Kevin Carter from the Bang Bang Club, the most famous
Yes,
club.
yes,
yeah.
I read that book.
Yeah, so Kevin, he worked at the Star. He took his life, but just before me because of the impact of that on him. But yeah,
So imagine, I imagine now just the tears of the what could have been and something that turned out.
that was good.
Okay.
It's a good news story. He's not the Mampara of the week. So
Definitely
he's
not.
the anti-Mampara.
Hold on, maybe we should also have like a, I don't know, what is the opposite of Mampara?
Mdu.
Of the week.
Okay, Mdu of the week. Because occasionally he's nice. Occasionally. A nice guy, Stephen Barker.
No, really good guy, honestly.
I mean, good draw with the team named after Black Label Lager. Zamalek. Why do I call the team after Zamalek, after Black Label Lager? A bit like Kaiser Castle. No. So
Okay.
I just saw
keep
Zamalek.
going.
So yeah, they drew 0-0 in the CAF Confederation Cup. Is that like the Europa Cup of CAF? Just one level down?
Yeah, you
Okay.
could say so. You
So
could say so.
It's still a big tournament.
And also, remember, they're the newbies in here. So for them to be competing the way they are and doing as well as they are, I do think, but I've already said, there's magic happening at Stellies, man. There's magic on another level. And who came in that was at Stellies? Which one of our guests? Who also yes, Morgan Gould,
Yeah.
who just attributed just to the new age of football that takes place at Stellies. And he hasn't ever in all his playing career experienced anything like how it's being done, operated, done, like it is at Stellenbosch FC. And they also have a woman media officer there. Hi, Jana. Just letting you know, we don't find very, very many in the PSL either. So just merely mentioning. Jana Swart. You want to say hi?
Hello.
Hi, Jana.
Hello, Jana. Swart.
Yeah.
What a great surname it is. Is it Dictionary Bali? A guy with a black mark against his name, a swart mark his name, Jose Mourinho. You got to read this one. I've read about 15 different versions of this.
So Jose Mourinho now faces a very lengthy ban. Why? Because he has gone ahead and pinched the nose of a Galatasaray coach, and that is Okan Buruk, after losing an ill-tempered derby that left Coach Baruch lying on the floor, clutching his face.
He took
But
a
why?
dive. He took a dive.
Why does he have to have Esperance manners?
He's the same guy, but he's done this before. He's done. They did it, I think, when he's at Madrid. He snuck up behind the Barcelona assistant Tito Villanova and poked him in the eye after losing the Spanish Super Cup final. So he's not afraid of getting stuck in, putting a bit of a boot there.
And then makes a run for it. He
nose.
doesn't even
Yeah.
own up to okay, I caused the damage. Like if you're going to do the damage, don't you want to own up and be like, I did that?
But this is, I mean, it should be the Glasgow Celtic, Glasgow Rangers derby, even Liverpool, Everton to a certain extent, the biggest derbies. This one is Vus. I mean, stuff happens. I mean, it kicked off last night. There was a push on someone else, another shove. Next thing, there were 15 of them pushing and
What is
shoving each
going
other.
on? Is it just that time of the season
Yeah.
where nobody has patience anymore? Patience is just worn thin, and everybody is just taking, I don't know, a hit at the next
But
person.
footballers fight like they're Lebanese. Do you know who I am? Do you know who I am?
Did I ever tell you the story about when I was in Robertsham in high school, watching
Yeah.
my high school boyfriend play football, and he played for Wits, and the next thing there were gunshots.
Yes, you did tell me.
Yes, and then we all just ran for cover, and I was just so confused. I was just like, but isn't this just a
normal
football
thing,
game?
yeah.
Yeah, like referees started running because Wits were winning, and we were in Robertsham. I can't remember who the teams were, but it's an emotional sport, huh?
It is. It was emotional for Liverpool fans last night. Those of us who got some sleep. WhatsApping Liverpool fans at 1:30 still talking about
You were?
a big win. I mean, it was important. It was a hard win. Just 1-0 against Everton at home. But Everton played more or less the same way they did the last time. They were just hitting long balls, looking for the jewels in the air. Out-muscled Liverpool to an extent. Virgil van Dijk and Konate looked a bit uncomfortable. But then Diaz set up the goal. Luis Diaz set up the goal on the back foot, and then Diego Jota managed to tiptoe his way through. I must say that the referee was an absolute joke. He gave this Tarkowski, the James Tarkowski of the Everton's late hero when they played about 49 days ago, when he scored the goal in the 98th minute or something to equalise the game. He went in with the tackle that Mike Dean, who's the head of referees, said, straight red card, absolute disgrace. James McCundy on TalkSport said, where is VAR? What is the point of VAR? Because they went to the VAR. VAR said, no, it was reckless, but it was no intent. He even said afterwards, so this is, Tarkowski comes on live air on Sky and says, no, listen, it wasn't great from me, but I thought it'd be like an old-fashioned 50-50 tackle, and then I realised he was going to try and go around. He said, but you weren't tackling with any sort of consideration for the safety of McAllister. And McAllister, if you look at the impact on his leg, we'll have pictures of that up later, the leg almost bends a little bit, and it hit his pad when he was down.
I don't want to see.
And then Jordan Pickford, there was an offside call. So there was a foul on Sabasli, and then the ball went up. Nunes went in and tried to get around Pickford. Pickford then kicked him the same way he kicked Virgil van Dijk 2-3 years ago when Van Dijk was out for a year with ACL. It was shocking VAR, shocking refereeing, but it was 12 points clear. Arsenal, come and get us.
But you see, I think if it's something that is synonymous with football the world over, we're asking about VAR right here in South Africa, and if it's happening or if it's not happening, and does it enhance or does it take away from the game, right? We're talking about refereeing as well. You just alluded to the refereeing that was really bad. And here at home, what do we have? We are alluding to the same things. Just referees, that just do not have a really great day at the office. Yeah,
pretty shocking. Another guy who's not had a great day at the office is poor Liam Lawson. So Christian Horner said the reason that they culled him from the team after just 2 races was because of his mental health. They were worried about that, worried about the effect. He apologized to the team like 5 or 6 dozen times.
This story doesn't sit well with me because when Lewis Hamilton was also interviewed, right, some time ago after winning all the Grand Prix that he has, he came out and said himself that no one ever gets them ready for the media that they have to face, or like the psychological aspect of the game. Tennis, Naomi Osaka said the same thing, where she actually gets anxiety. If you watch her enough, you'll see how she starts panicking prior to facing the press. And I have to say, I mean, I'm a journalist, you're a journalist, and we go in hard also sometimes, forgetting that these are people at the end of the day. But on the flip side, what is being done in order to get athletes ready to be able to face a room full of press, which they're going to do in any case, right? And here, now you're worrying about mental health. You should have worried about mental health prior to be putting the athlete in that position. Yeah. He should have had like the mental dexterity, which is the new flex, to be able to stomach this, do this, because this is what it's like. This is the pressure you're going to face, isn't it? Yeah. And then after 2 races, you're like, no. Now we need to focus on your mental health. No, I think it's something that has to be done before that, before you even get there, so that you're equipped with everything that you need to be the best you can possibly be. I mean, I've never been there, but I'm just, taking a look, reading, looking around, hearing what athletes are saying. You want that. I mean, being the former media officer for Bafana, I mean, Lyle Foster would say the same thing. He'd be like, Romy, do you have to take me today? And I'll be like, okay, Lyle, I'll be there with you, because it's hard for him. It's difficult. It's and then you realize that as much as you put the player there, you also have to be the buffer for the player from a room full of people. And I watched him one day and I said, I'm so sorry, but he did really well. But it's not his comfort zone. He's completely out of it. And it makes him antsy.
Well, Temba Bavuma was the same once. Dorota Malaketu, who was the media person then, it was the test match where he walked without actually edging the ball. and it didn't wait. And you see the team screaming at him from the change room, don't come. And then she said to him, listen, you have to go. The guys want to speak to you. He said, no, I can't do it. I can't do it.
Yeah.
So
And it's just a little bit of coaching. It's about that easy ease in until they get it going. Because eventually the media are now going to slash you for not coming out.
Yeah.
But then you need a little bit of prep, don't you? Everybody does. Prior to just facing, you can't just go in cold.
Yeah. Speaking about Tim Bavuma, after the break, we're going to be speaking to, and his name, of course, on the other page, we're speaking to Impo Motolani, who's a broadcaster and presenter about all things cricket. We haven't talked a lot about cricket.
No, we haven't.
No. And we are all
Rob
over
Walter also.
Yeah, Rob Walter. Tim Bavuma is now playing cricket this weekend for the 4-day game. The Lions look like they're going to win, so it's a big win. But I think you can reach out to us across all social media. And
that's it. And yeah,
Twitter.
we're live today, so this is a first.
Yeah.
I hope everybody can hear
my
us
hand looks really
nicely.
big when I do that.
And I can see myself. I don't know who I'm
so
speaking
this
to.
is my Donald Trump hands. This
Anyway,
is the big hands.
yeah, I think we're having fun. Mdu says it's time for a break.
Okay. When he begins with what you eat, boost your energy with AGT Foods' range of nutritious grains and legumes. Play better, live healthier. Brought to you by AGT Foods Africa. Good food, good health, good life.
This is Omnisport Africa. We are putting African sport first. Live and on demand on your phone. Data free on the MTN network in South Africa. T's and C's apply. And online at omniaudio.africa. Because reading about it tomorrow won't help you today. When we created Omnisport, we wanted you to hear from Africa's greatest sports journalists. In South Africa, there was only one choice.
No big deal.
Omnisport proudly presents Inside SA Soccer with Brad Jakes.
Whatever that Chiefs can do, it would seem Mamelodi Sundowns can do better.
With over 3 decades as one of South Africa's most talented, decorated, and astute soccer journalists, Brad Jakes is the man the players, coaches, team owners, and officials listen to.
This is a brave man.
Inside SA Soccer with Brad Jakes, exclusive to Omnisport, where Africa comes to play.
Now that's a garage match.
Listen live now and on demand at omniaudio.africa.
Probably not this week, next week. All right, we're back 8:47. It is, and strength starts with smart choices. Add AGT Foods barley and split peas to your diet for essential nutrients that support muscle recovery. Train hard, recover harder. Brought to you by AGT Foods Africa. Good food, good health, good life.
Not the sports news on omniaudio.africa. With Romy Titus and Kevin McCallum.
Cool. And on the phone we have goes back to page 1 on the runner.
I'm still looking here.
Yeah, it's Impo Motolani. Good morning, Impo. Tell us about yourself. What do you do for a living? And why do you love cricket so much?
Of all sports, cricket.
It's not cricket. I love all the sports. I just find cricket a lot easier to talk about. And there was an easy way into this broadcasting life. But I have a day job. I work in an investment firm. But sport is my passion, and it's been my passion project for the last 7 to 10 years. I've had podcasts. We've had a digital cricket commentary station that we're running, which is why I found myself in cricket. And then now I still do a weekly cricket podcast called the Full Quota Podcast, where we talk all things South African cricket, domestic cricket, mostly actually, and then stuff around the Proteas men and Proteas women.
Did you work with Simon Gear for a spell then?
Yes, I did.
Okay, I did a couple of those broadcasts with him.
Yes. Simon and I ran that business for a while.
Yeah, Simon was desperately out of doing the weather, I think.
At least you'd always know whether it was a good day or not for cricket.
Rob Walter's leaving. Massive blow. Bit of a shock. But had the job become harder because of the desperation for South Africans for a World Cup win?
I don't think it was the desperation for a World Cup win. I think it was everything in between. And the plan that he had in terms of trying to focus not on having the best 11 on the field all the time in between World Cups and tournaments, but trying to open the pool. Yeah. So I think he broke the cohesion that the team had when they could have had going into World Cups, even though they did well and got far. but that final step requires a little bit more time with the best 15. And I just felt that he was trying to get about a pool of 45 players, which I think the best pool you could get is about 25 players who would be rotating in and out of that Proteas limited over setup. He just focused on that a little bit too much. And when you look at a performance review, it's an annual review. It's not just what you did in tournaments, and he was great in tournaments. And his big plan in tournaments was he's hoping that the best 15 guys were always going to click because they played with each other for the last 10 years. And it happened. And we saw that in the USA. But before the USA, it looked like we weren't going to win the World Cup.
Yeah.
Before we even got to the last World Cup in Pakistan, we didn't even think like we were going to win because he kept on losing series, which is so anti-South African. This is the most successful ODI team in the history of cricket. We're leagues ahead of everybody in bilateral series, and which is fine, and that's okay. And yes, we want a World Cup, but the idea that we forego the work we do in bilateral series for the chance at winning a World Cup, yeah, it's a risk, but I'm not sure if it was something that the director of cricket was happy with. I think from a plan perspective, to a certain extent, some people would say he had no plan. His plan was relying on the six batters who played together for the last 5, 6, 7 years, and the bowlers who were going to come right. And he just was found out in a year where really bowling was really tough because we had so many injuries and we couldn't necessarily get the best guys out there to get them rhythm and repetition. So, look, I'm not crying about this. I don't think South Africans should be worried about this. I do think that there are coaches who can still get the best out of this team in a different way, also trying to get the best guys out there. Yes, he had issues with IPL and players not being available and all of that stuff. But, look, I think, not saying that Rob was a bad coach, I just thought his plans and processes weren't the best when it came to this team.
Look, I don't envy the job of any coach, the world over, because I think it really is a thankless job and it's extremely tough as well. Then when you said it's everything in between leading to that resignation, I can't help but think, where his family base was, where he was, being up at certain times of the day, being in New Zealand, but trying to catch up on what's happening on this side. I think it's a very delicate balance when it is that you leave your home base somewhere else and you move pretty much in the other side of the world into a different time zone, and then you're still trying to be a part of that family nucleus, which is almost impossible when you have a demanding job like he did.
No, and that's probably one of the reasons why he tendered in his resignation.
But don't you think about that prior? For me, it's almost like eventually, yes, the gavel drops, but it's not like you didn't know that this is what you were buying into. And then I almost think further than that when you are appointed as coach, that these are big things, keeping your family together, being a part of that nucleus. It's a big thing, especially if you're a father and you have kids, you want to be a part of that. So shouldn't that all be considered prior, and not like 2 years in or whatever, and now you're just like, okay, thank you, bye, because that is more important, which it is. But it should have been something top of mind before.
It was a question in his first press conference as to whether he was going to move his family this side. And he said no, he was going to work on the hybrid system. So obviously he made the choice that he was going to try and do this South Africa in, New Zealand out situation and try and make it work. And for most of the year, he's been in New Zealand because we don't have that many limited over series to begin with, right? So I do think that it was one thing, but I do think there was something else in the performance review that happened a couple of weeks ago that led him to this decision. Because from my perspective, you can follow domestic cricket wherever you can in the world. All the games are on YouTube. You can get tape from CSA around players you want to watch. So you can do that even in a New Zealand where New Zealand's like 12 hours ahead of us, right? I think for me, it was just a question of the dissatisfaction around the plan and the strategy. But also, I wouldn't put this past CSA. I think in my head, we can't afford to have two coaches. And yes, it was nice, and yes, they want to follow the England model, but for an entity that hasn't been making a profit and hasn't been making a profit for the last couple of years, having two coaches, two senior coaches, to coach one team didn't necessarily make sense, especially when there's one coach who's actually Wisden Coach of the Year and has been doing a great job. It just makes you reflect as an organization as to maybe you may need to go back. And I do think there were some other things at CSA, and that's what I mean about in between, right? They use the bilateral series to kind of as the stick to beat him with. However, at every tournament, Rob always got into the top four.
Yeah.
And so, how do you balance those? And I think the dissatisfaction of the fact that this team keeps on losing throughout the year, but somehow we get to a World Cup and somehow everything just comes together. And I think maybe it was used as a way to kind of, restructure the co-coaching thing. I think he's done a great, the World Cup performances aside, as a South African fan, everyone's happy with what we're seeing. It's just obviously we just hate losing to Afghanistan and Ireland.
Yeah, we do. Who suffers more, do you think, now? I know parting ways always, some happy, some not. Who suffers more?
I think at this point in time, I think it's Rob. I think the players have done really great work in terms of getting the cohesion going and getting themselves playing with each other and trusting each other, because I don't think that 11 or 15 players, and if you add Luandre and Dieval Brevis into that squad, make it about 20 players. I think they're fine. I think the players are okay. I think CSA has an opportunity to restructure and relook at it like England did and move it back to one person. And obviously you guys know who I'm talking about. And so I think it's a win for CSA if they want to save money. It's a win for the players because fundamentally unless we get someone who's just left field, who's going to change everything. The style of play, the style of cricket that's been played has been dictated to by the director of cricket, Enoch Nkwe. It's very aggressive. It's very man-uppy in terms of you have to land the first punch and try and play as aggressive as possible to give yourself every chance to win the game. That doesn't change, and that's the same in the test side, right? So I think the loser here might be Rob. I do think he'll still find a job in New Zealand because he's one of the most successful coaches to ever coached in domestic cricket in New Zealand. So if I had to pick a loser, it'd be him, but I don't think he's lost much.
So, I mean, obviously the other name you want to mention is Shukri Conrad. And everybody's been speaking about it already. Would you be happy with Shooks? I mean, I've known him for a long time. He's a great coach, great man, and the players do respond to him very, very well.
Kevin, I didn't know him before I knew about him, but I never obviously knew of his coaching philosophy and tactics. And I thought it was kind of weird the way he went about that test side. Yeah. But the players responded to him, as you said. Yeah. The brand of cricket that you're playing is exactly the brand of cricket that the director of cricket wants, and it's a no-brainer, especially with the way in which the players responded to him. I think with Rob, there were moments where you looked and you thought something's just a little bit off with this team from a cohesion perspective. But yeah, I think Shukri makes a lot more sense and is the sensible choice and probably the cheapest choice for CSA. But he's been a phenomenal coach. Last year, he really stepped up to win 8 on the trot. To get yourself into that World Test Championship final is unheard of. Even in a cricketing world where you have India, Australia dominating Test cricket. And so I think it just makes sense. And it also made CSA look like on the other side, this man's taking us to a final. This team is unbeaten. And it looks as though we have a chance against Australia. It's not like we're going into a World Cup final without a hope and a prayer. We've got a massive chance against them.
Correct.
And so I think.
Go ahead.
I was done, but I think for me that's he's my choice.
If it's two words that go together, Christmas, cricket, right? Mm-hmm. And I mean, what's going on?
We're going to be watching SA20 over Christmas.
I'm sorry, but there are grown men who wake up on a Boxing Day going,
look, I'm not a fan of Test cricket, but I mean, for so many years, my family congregate,
But I mean, how are you supposed to digest your Sunday lunch if not sitting drinking a dozen beers while watching a day of Test cricket?
It's sad.
Yeah, it is sad, but it's a function of where world cricket is now. That Future Tours program really hurt us this year. But we knew a year like this was going to come, right? There was always that one summer where the Proteas were playing Boxing Day cricket in Australia, in Melbourne, and we always had to wake up at 2 a.m. By the time we woke up on Boxing Day, there was nothing, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just one of those years where it just happens to have no one come. I thought CSA could have tried to get other teams to come in, even if it was a Zimbabwe, just for us to just even feel the
Small something.
yeah, even if it's a domestic 11, like the best players this year, like a Begiva Luandre, a Deervalt, an opportunity against a very strong Zimbabwe side because they're playing good cricket. That would have worked, but obviously they weren't able to, and I can't fault them for it. The only question is obviously next year when the financial statements come out, they're going to be rendering a massive loss.
Yeah.
And for me, that's the bigger worry outside of not necessarily not having Boxing Day test matches. But we're going to have Boxing Day SA20, which is different. I just hope that it doesn't continue. But yeah, it's going to be something new for everyone to kind of get themselves, to wrap their heads around. And yeah, look, we'll have the Ashes that we'll be watching, but it's pretty much it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing I know that worked was this conversation. So thank you very much for joining us. And yeah.
Yeah.
Are you awake?
I am.
You left me there for a minute.
Sorry, I did. I was just trying to find something.
Mdu says
Rob
it's time
Walter's
for us to
gone.
say goodbye.
Yeah, but Mdu and I are going to have a little chat about that music just now. That's going to be a long chat.
We are back tomorrow, Friday edition. Till then,
Cheers.
cheerio.
Bye.
And bye. Bye, everybody. Bye.
Live and on demand. This is not the sports news. Available on omniaudio.africa and on YouTube at Omni Audio Africa.